As most of you are aware, God of War has been significantly reimagined and changes direction from the mold of the previous ones. It has gone in a direction that has made the franchise much better, to the point where I was completely caught off guard with how great the game is, and I would say this is yet again another Sony exclusive great that is probably the Game of the Year contender easy. Story and visuals. In my playthrough of 30 plus hours, I recall the game consisted of a story that depicted a more refined, mature, and human-like Kratos, who was trying his best to redeem himself despite his dark past. Creative director Cory Barlog's direction in regards to the story shows a Kratos that is aware of his previous unchecked aggression, brutality, violence, and an unquenchable thirst for vengeance, all of which the narrative reflects on. The game has a deep and thought-provoking plot, and constantly explores the idea of whether one can change their own nature and fate. In this reimagined story, Kratos is no longer the embodiment of rage, nor the anti-hero. The main desire and impetus to change for Kratos is brought about by Atreus, Kratos' son. I can't go much further than this without spoilers, but safe to say that the main aim of the story is to journey to a particular place with your son to scatter the ashes of your deceased wife. You then embark on this really epic and beautiful journey that has you coming across beautiful vistas, scenery, and booming diversity of colours and landscapes. As you traverse these areas, the story unfolds and several other events and developments happen that require your attention. But the tone of the story has changed. Previously, God of War was unchecked vengeance and aggression, and it was a sort of archetypal thing on parts of Kratos, but now that the story is much more serious, reflective, and nuanced here, the story here has much more emotive force and human resonance, which makes it more gripping and connectable, unlike the previous ones, which just tickled your inner desire for destruction. You also have an ensemble of other characters that you bump into as well, that are present in the journey, some of which accompany or help craft armors and weapons and upgrades, as well as giving you extra lore and dialogue in your travels. The additional characters really did add to the enjoyment of the game, as most of the time they would say something really witty or funny, and the character ensemble generally was written superbly well, and you really do get to love these characters in your journey.
You help me, I help you. Tell me where they are, and I'll talk to Odin.
Your father won't let me go, Baldur, and he won't let you kill me. You have nothing to offer me, so take your questions, take your threats, take these two worthless wankers, and piss off!
Rock! Rock! Rock!
What? I'm on a fucking break. Don't hear me screeching at you whenever you're twiddling your short and curlies.
Leave him, boy.
No, Pep. Well, you already soiled my solitude, so you may as well join me.
You're not hungry.
Good. It's not what I was offering.
As for the setting, the reimagined God of War no longer takes place in Greek mythology, because Kratos truly took care of that by doing shit like this to the Greek gods. It now takes place in Norse mythology, so then it makes sense that the story and lore is grounded in that. The story is much better in this direction because for once you care about the characters and make connections with them. It's a much more human-like tale and isn't about the grandiose bloodlust which suited the Greek mythology more given its history. So God of War fans should not be worried about the story's direction in this installment. It is truly much better here. Gameplay. Obviously this is the most important bit, and I have to say that I've been blown back by the scale and level of improvement that developers have done to this game when compared with the last ones. The game is not entirely open world, I would say it's semi, as its fast travel and inter-realm travel is quite stop and start, and is a little bit restrictive, albeit cool. You have the main world that you can travel in called Midgard, and a series of other realms you can lock in and set course to. Not each realm is as big as Midgard, but that's not the point. The other places are settings that you can go to explore the main and side objectives. The world is sufficiently big in scale, and you really do feel that you are traveling to different worlds and locations when moving around. The game was also designed to appear like a single shot, ensuring you don't get a moment of disconnect between what is happening on screen or get locked into static loading screens. Obviously, a few clever tricks were employed to do this, but it shows an evolutionary step and better way of dealing with the discontinuity in those periods of loading. It felt like the game didn't load at all when it actually did due to this clever technique. Unlike other open world games, side quests and optional events have been designed so well that you bump into most of them in or near your main path, making it really tempting to tackle them there and then. Unlike other games, Cory Barlog did not want to put so many side quests to the point where it felt like a chore. Quality over quantity was definitely the objective and aim here. While there are plenty of other optional things to do, they do not feel like a chore piling up or get tedious. You are not flooded with side stuff, but though on the occasions that they do present themselves, it fills you up with delight as you find that there might be really cool challenges, rewards, or foes to fight. And the level of quality in most of these side quests were good as well, like the level of polish. It didn't feel like a cop-out or kind of like, oh, let's just add some extra content for the sake of adding extra content. They actually had purpose and a cool story and some scenes as well. But going back to the optional encounters, some of these optional encounters or events may not be accessible or doable, as you may not have gotten far enough in the main game or are just too weak stats wise, which then leads to the next bit about the gameplay: progression. The game's progression revolves around your stats, which is primarily enhanced with gear you get in the game. You can craft the gear in the game using the funny Norse dwarven blacksmiths or stumble across them in your travels. The gear also has upgrade features and customizability, but your best bet is to work towards Ivaldi's armor sets in Niflheim once you get that far into the game, as I felt that the stats and perk bonuses were one of the best in the game. But of course there are plenty more secrets regarding progression, which will be unveiled to the curious player, but safe to say that there have been several quality of life improvements to combat, consumables, gear, and weapons. The combat system has also changed. Gone are the days where you learn endless combos, and instead you now have 3 different combat kits that have different fighting styles you can upgrade or tweak to your liking, with skill trees. Of course you can unlock everything if you do the extra stuff and earn enough XP. You can choose between the Leviathan Axe, which has a Thor-like mechanic to it, where you can throw and recall it back into your hands. Shield combat, which is my favourite because you can just combo stun with Atreus and execute people much more quickly instead of having to finish off their health bars. And then you have the third category of weapon, which I cannot go into for spoiler reasons. But each weapon will have 2 possible combos you can slot a special ability into, and the triggering buttons will always be the same, so you don't have to commit lots of combo patterns to memory. You can equip a particular combo into a weapon slot, and each weapon has 2 moves, 1 light and 1 heavy. Instead of having to commit lots of combos to your memory, you can focus on including the combos you want in each weapon. So when you do switch weapons during combat, you know what to press and feel like you can chain moves much better because you know what to press. This makes encountering difficult foes easier. The purists and hardcore players might not like it, but the majority of the player base will. You can also upgrade and craft stuff for Atreus, although it is a bit more limited, but you can make this companion overpowered with the addition of his own skill tree you can work away at. You can then approach your fights cleverly and with strategy by upgrading Kratos and Atreus' kit, so that it works in harmony with each other. You can do some great stuff when chaining moves together. That being said, Atreus did not feel like a useless companion at all, and after I upgraded him, I felt like I kind of needed him there to take on some of the more challenging foes. While the combat had an overhaul, it still feels like it had the God of War spirit, because I was still able to smash, execute and kill hordes of people with the same level of attentiveness, finesse and skill that the combat constantly demands. Normal difficulty felt like it was reasonably pitched well, and the combat was never boring. I saw each fight as a fun and perfect opportunity to get more XP and become stronger, as XP is the currency that you upgrade skills trees with. The combat does feel a bit more clunky though, as it's less acrobatic than the last God of War, and especially with the over-the-shoulder camera, I did feel responding to imminent attacks from the rear a bit too difficult. But they did try and counter this by putting in a lighting system that shows you the direction of the imminent attack, as well as a quick turn button, but I feel a better solution is needed for this. You'll also find that Q2Es are gone. Personally, I felt that this was a good decision, as I was able to enjoy the choreography and executions more by watching the awesomely crafted moment instead of ignoring it and waiting for a button press prompt, resulting in me missing the action. The game has plenty to do, and it's not just mere volume dump of boring repetitive shit. It has lots of really cool side quest stuff as well. You can free big ass dragons or take on the hidden Valkyries in the game, which is a side quest story chain in itself. I felt like doing all, if not most of the side quests and side content, and that is because of the good design of the game and how fun the game is to play and explore. And personally, there is some secret gear that I've yet to get, and to be honest, I can't even kill all the Valkyries yet, as I am underpowered and shit at the moment, but knowing that I can get stronger in return is something to look forward to after beating the main campaign. Music. The music in the game captures the drama, intensity, spirit and mythology of the game. The soundtrack here is composed by Bear McGrary, and I love the simple but effective main theme he created for this installment.
My method into any project is really through the characters. So this game, perhaps more than any other in the franchise, it has really well-developed characters. I mean, it's really a well-written story. And that was my starting point, and just writing a piece of music that could capture the spirit of a character without even knowing like where it would go in the game. Just how does this make you feel? Does this piece of music capture the spirit of Kratos? I wanted to write something that represented age, wisdom, power, masculinity. So I wrote this tune. It was like a slow march, bum, 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 bum. I didn't know how to start it. Finally, I was like, I don't know, maybe the first 3 notes I could do something with. So I was like, bum, bum, bum. I just kind of stuck that on the beginning, almost as an afterthought. So I sent it to Sony and Cory, and they love it. And especially the beginning. They're like, the 3 notes in the beginning. And I was like, what 3? Oh, that thing? It is just the first 3 notes of the tune, just kind of on a loop. So it just feels very stern, the way that like a stern father would say to his son over and over and over again, the same thing. I think there's an element of that.
The sound in this game has also been beautifully crafted, and one good example was hearing the serpent talk. It really did convince me that I would shit myself if I saw that in real life, given how scary and intimidating he sounds.
What is this?
It's the world serpent.
Stay calm, boy!
I am! This is great!
It speaks?
Yeah! Mom said he's friendly!
What is it saying?
I don't know!
But the game is filled with sounds and voices that capture the epicness of the world that you are in, and everything down to the sounds of the whipping slow motion as you capitalize on an opportunity to shield bash someone in the face, or hearing the crunch of someone you tear apart really adds an auditory orgasm to the combat. Verdict. God of War has gone through a massive reimagining, and it surprisingly turned out into one of the best games I've ever picked up. I played a God of War that hit me in the feels and struck an emotional chord with me. It had a beautiful world filled with lots of cool Norse mythology and wonderful environments with plenty to do. It has a combat system that is redesigned and easy to pick up with lots of progression and well-designed side stuff that has me glued to my console and off my PC. This is a game that will be firmly etched into my memories and be one of those games that you get nostalgic about. being grateful of having the pleasure to experience this game when looking back at it years down the line. Verdict: easy, 10 out of 10. Sony have once again done a good job in demonstrating the importance of supporting developers in their creative endeavors if truly great games such as this are to emerge in their library. Definitely buy now.